Okay, so there's a lot of people out there panicking. There's a lot of mixed feelings out there at the moment. There's a lot of divide going on. There's a lot of people that are happy to get vaccinated to protect themselves and their family, which is fine. There's a lot of people who don't want to get vaccinated, and obviously there's been a lot of pressure out there in the last few days coming from the media or coming from the Daniel Andrews government, suggesting that vaccinations are to be made mandatory with all authorised workers to be vaccinated by the 15th of October. Otherwise, they're not able to go to work. This is obviously not something that a lot of people are going to be happy about. So I just want to clear up a few things and try and set your mind at rest a little bit here, because we do have to operate underneath the law. Even the government does, and you know, they might push a narrative that's slightly different to it, but I'll make it as simple as I can for you. I've got here the Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008. This is a Victorian Act. It's currently in place. Specifically, I'm referring to Section 198(7)(c), which is in the middle of your document here. And the state of emergency is obviously in place, which does give them extraordinary powers to basically do everything that they have been doing as far as lockdowns, restricted activities, face masks, stay-at-home directions, mandatory testing, and all that kind of thing. There's been a lot of things that they've done under that state of emergency, and you can see here that it was originally put in place. The state of emergency was originally declared by Daniel Andrews' government, and particularly the Health Minister, on the 16th of March in 2020, and that was done under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act. It was done lawfully. You can see all those dates there, April through to August 2021, September. It's currently in place until the 21st of October. It needs to be revised every month by the Health Minister and approved by the Health Minister, Martin Foley in this case. And he has continued this state of emergency without any interruption from the 16th of March 2020. A lot of people are worried that he'll be able to continue that indefinitely, which sounds like a scary thing. I can assure you, I'm going to show you something here just through the actual Act itself, Section 198(7)(c) in the middle of the screen right now. The state of emergency may be extended by another declaration for further periods not exceeding 4 weeks, but the total period that the declaration continues in force cannot exceed 6 months. Now, when it does exceed 4 weeks, it just needs to be reinstated by the Health Minister, which he's obviously done, and he's followed the correct process for that. They cannot exceed 6 months. Well, that was amended. There was an amendment to the Public Health and Safety Act, changing that to 12 months. That was done in September last year, and it was then repealed in September this year. So that 12 months is now irrelevant. And then when it continue on, it says, in the case of the emergency declaration in respect of the COVID-19 pandemic, 21 months. So 21 months from March the 16th in 2020 is basically December the 15th or December the 16th in 2021. So this act was written in a way that these state of emergency powers cannot just go on indefinitely. It's written here in the Act, and it cannot be changed. 21 months is the maximum period. So all of these extraordinary powers will end on the 15th of December, 16th of December. That's something that you do need to be aware of, and it's something that the media definitely do not talk about. Now, if I move right along here, I also wanted to talk about the mandatory vaccinations. Daniel Andrews has announced that by Friday the 15th of October, all authorised workers in Victoria will need to have at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccination. And then there's a list of the authorised providers, which are also available on the coronavirus.vic.gov.au website. They're also available on the Premier's website as well. Supermarket workers, restaurant, cafes, financial institutions, post office workers, news agencies, pharmacies, petrol stations, zoos, There's a lot of people here that will be affected by this mandatory vaccination, and many of them whom I know do not want to do it. Now, what do we do? I suppose many people are thinking, well, we better just go out and get it because we don't want to lose our job. Well, there's a document here that obviously the media has failed to draw any attention to, and that's the actual directions from the Chief Health Officer himself. In this case, it's the acting Chief Health Officer. This is a current document through the DHHS website, which is the Department of Health and Human Services. Directions from the Acting Chief Health Officer in accordance with the emergency powers arising from the current declared state of emergency. And this particular document references the COVID-19 mandatory vaccination directions. This is document number 5. I should say that document number 4 was in place until the 1st of October. This document here came into effect 2 days ago from when I'm recording this right now. And this document here basically gives you the directions from the Chief Health Officer as to who needs to be mandatorily vaccinated. The purpose of these directions is to impose obligations upon operators of specified facilities in relation to the vaccination of workers in order to limit the spread of SARS-CoV-2. Right. So previous versions of these directions imposed obligations on operators of residential aged care facilities and construction sites. These directions continue to impose those obligations, and they now extend them to the operators of healthcare facilities and education facilities. So in document number 4, this is document number 5, healthcare facilities and education facilities were not included in the mandatory vaccination requirements. These directions may be referred to as the COVID-19 mandatory vaccination directions number 5. If anyone wants to look at just number 7 there, it does say these directions must be read together with the directions currently in force. Okay, so if we wanted to look at what directions are currently in force, here's the directions issued by Victoria's Chief Health Officer. Again, this is on the DHHS website, Department of Health and Human Services. Information for the public, directions issued by Victoria's Chief Health Officer. What directions are they referring to? Well, obviously they're referring to COVID-19 mandatory vaccination directions, which I have that document open and we're reading through that one at the moment. The vaccinated activities directions, care facilities directions, diagnosed persons and close contact directions, restricted activity directions, area directions, stay-at-home directions, stay safe directions, Victorian border crossing permit directions, workplace directions and workplace. So basically what that statement there means is that this document, this particular document here, does not eliminate any of those other directions. Those directions must be read together with the directions currently in force. Right, and these directions may be referred to as the COVID-19 mandatory vaccination directions. The commencement is the 1st of October, and the revocation is at 11:59 on the 21st of October, which is currently about 18 days away. The COVID-19 mandatory vaccination directions number 4, which was the previous document, which did not include healthcare or education facilities, that was revoked at 11:59 on the 1st of October. This document here in part 2 gives you the obligations of the operators of the facilities. When we talk about these facilities, residential aged care, construction, healthcare and education. There's nothing in there about whether you're at a petrol station or a bank or a financial institution or a real estate agency or a milk bar or anywhere else. He's not interested in any of that. You do not need to be vaccinated if you are in any other industry other than what's specified in this particular document. So make sure you hear that. I hope you understand that. This document takes precedent. This is a legal document. There are instructions in here for the operators and employees who fall into these specified categories. And I'll go down to the bottom of the document here, and there is a Schedule 1, specified facilities, which outlines very clearly residential aged care, construction site, healthcare facility, education facility. It tells you about the operator, the worker. It tells you the deadline for the first dose. You'll notice that the deadlines are quite different to what Daniel Andrews is saying about October 15. You'll see the second dose deadline, and you'll also see the facility-specific definitions all outlined in Clause 9, Clause 9.2, Clause 9.3 and Clause 9.4. So if we just go back to double check that, there's 9, Clause 9.1. Obviously it does say residential aged care facility workers. 2, construction sites. 3, healthcare facilities. 4, education and care services, childhood care and childcare services. So you can see clearly that the age with their media release, Daniel Andrews' media release, which I've got a copy of here, vaccination required to protect workers in Victoria, basically stating that all authorised workers must be vaccinated by the 15th of October. This is incorrect. It's illegal. It's not necessary. If you're worried about it and if you do not want your vaccine, simply show this video to your employer. You can ask them to seek legal advice if you like, but everything that is being pushed out there at the moment is incorrect. And I think you can see it very clearly with the documentation I've provided. Have a great one.